Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the series about Gabriel Delanne. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Vanessa Anseloni. Hello, Dr. Vanessa Anseloni. Very
Ah,
nice to have you here with us. It's a great pleasure.
thank you, Dr. Munir, as well, for this invitation and for the British Union of Spiritist Societies for the initiative as well.
Thank you. So, for those who don't know, and I know there are very few, but for those who don't know, Dr. Vanessa Anseloni. Dr. Vanessa Anseloni, she's a neuroscientist and a psychologist with a PhD, and she's the founder of the School of Emotion. She is also the founder and former president of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, also founder and president of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Group of Washington. Dr. Anseloni is a Spiritist medium, fraternal counselor, and coordinates spiritual treatments and workshops. She has been translating and coordinating a team of translators of Spiritist books. Among those are Among Brothers of Other Lands and Good News. She is also the co-author of the book The New Generation, together with Divaldo Franco, the Brazilian medium, and the editor-in-chief of the Spiritist magazine. So Dr. Anseloni is the founder of Kardec Radio, and we are very grateful to Dr. Anseloni and Kardec Radio for allowing us to use their studio and make possible these broadcasts with a series about the work of Gabriel Delanne. So, welcome, Dr. Anseloni. I'll hand it over to you with our gratitude for allowing us to use this studio. Thank you.
Thank you, Munir. Thank you, friends. Let us talk about Gabriel Delanne. We today were assigned to talk about one of his books. So I'm going to share with you a few slides. And you may be asking, why do we need to study authors that are no longer living, right? Well, who said they're no longer living? He still lives. Yet, where is Gabriel Delanne? Today, he's going to be with us. He's going to be with us, and as Leon Denis, another renowned French Spiritist author, said once, when we read an author's book, we're entering contact with the author. What an honor for us to be in touch with minds that have been at the vanguard of humanity's thinking. Yes, you and I are progressing. We reincarnate not only to redress previous lives' mistakes, but also to learn the new. Otherwise, how are we going to progress? We need to learn the new. And this moment, it is certainly more about the new than anything else. Because in the Spiritist literature in English, we don't have much access to Gabriel Delanne. We have one book or another, but there are books that will relate to you right here at Kardec Radio through this wonderful initiative of the British Union of the Spiritist Societies that are leading us to get to know of those who met Kardec. Yes, Gabriel Delanne met Kardec. Not only that, let me show to you. I will show you a few things. Let me just make sure that I have everything in place. Yes, I do. And today we're going to talk about the evolution of the soul, which is actually one of his books. But who was Gabriel Delanne? Interesting enough, he was born on March 23rd, 1857. Can you believe it? He was born on the very year that the Spirit's book came to life. He was born when Kardec was 57 years of age. Mhm. He was a baby when Spiritism was about to be released on April 18th, 1857. And he discarnated in 1926. Interesting enough, Gabriel Delanne had parents who became spiritists, and they were not like one or another. They were one of the first spiritists with Kardec. His father, Alexander, was a great advocate for Spiritism, friends of Kardec, founder of the first Spiritist center in this world in Paris. Gabriel Delanne was born in Paris. His mother was a medium that collaborated with the teachings of Spiritism. We have articles that were published in the Spiritist magazine, the Revue Spirit at Kardec's time, that bring messages through the mediumship of Gabriel Delanne's mother. So he was raised in a spiritist environment, one of the first spiritists. And people say that Gabriel Delanne may be one of the very first spiritist generations of spiritist families. And he decided to be a spiritist because I know people who are born in spiritist families and they decide otherwise. But Gabriel Delanne was different. He was ahead of his time. He had this mind of a visionary. Gabriel Delanne wrote this book, The Evolution of the Soul, L'Evolution Animique. And what does he talk about? Imagine at his time, before the 20th century, when religions were being having their clashes with science that was becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, and he dares to talk about the unthinkable, the evolution of the soul. Remember, in 1857, Darwin was publishing his book about the evolution of the species. Kardec was publishing the Spirit's book. And then later comes Gabriel Delanne and bridges those both, talking about the evolution of the physical body, the spiritual body, according to Spiritism and sciences. A book that is really ahead of its time, way before science could put two together and still doesn't in so many ways. We're going to see that this book came before the book Evolution into Worlds by André Luiz, through Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira, two mediums for one book. The book Evolution of the Soul by Gabriel Delanne comes as a foundation for us to bring the teachings of the spirits through Kardec's books, science, and then later confirmed and developed even further by André Luiz in the book Evolution into Worlds. I'll show you. I've selected in all these chapters a few passages so we can see, especially what's meaningful to you and I. We don't want to make this an hour of pure knowledge and literature and understanding of sciences of the spirit or material science, but mostly one, as in Spiritism we do, that bridges all of its aspects, including the consequences in our daily lives. So, first and foremost, we want to say for those who want to watch the series of the study of the book Evolution into Worlds, we've done it years ago. Not only me, Dr. Marco Magalhães from Canada, and Dr. Shane Martin from Richmond, Virginia, the three of us led the study of the book Evolution into Worlds in sessions of an hour average, and you can follow through at Kardec Radio's either Facebook or YouTube. If you go to the book by Gabriel Delanne, The Evolution of the Soul, you see the introduction. We don't have it here for you in English, but just so you have, it's like 6 chapters, an introduction and a conclusion. It's not a super comprehensive book. It's a book that can be read by any one of us, irrespective of our scientific background. And he brings to us this understanding of life as a whole, a very holistic, truly integral understanding of us. To make to give us an idea, in chapter 1 he's going to talk about life, then animal life, the perispirit and properties, memory and multiple personalities, the role of the soul in reincarnation, heredity, mental illnesses, the universe, and his conclusion. This is what the book is going to encompass, composed of all these chapters, and we selected passages that can be key for us to live a better life. First of all, the main message of the book, if we could summarize in only a sentence, Gabriel Delanne states from beginning to end, we progress, we evolve. And you may say, well, Vanessa, of course we do. No. Of 8 billion people in this planet who are incarnated, besides the discarnates, which are almost the double of it, I tell you, many people don't know that they progress, that they evolve. They think, I am who I am, and I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. Is that true? Many people are suffering because they think they are who they are. They are never going to progress. They are never going to evolve. It is so essential for us to know that we are what we make of ourselves. When Jesus came, because Spiritism is the vivid Christianity, the Christ consciousness in us, Jesus came to show to us that we evolve. And if Gabriel Delanne is telling us that, he's showing to us at every chapter, chapter after chapter, showing to us that we progress. And that can change our lives forever. When I look at myself in the mirror and I realize this is the way I've been, and now I am deciding the next step. And I can already see myself in the near future in a different way. And in a million years from now, who knows if we'll be pure spirits. We hope. That's what we hope. So we're marching towards our evolution. In this book, in the first chapter, he's going to reinforce to us that whatever we are is imprinted in some body that is not in the physical body, because when the body dies, we don't lose our identity. You see, he follows in the footsteps of Kardec. In the book Genesis, Kardec has a chapter, chapter 13, dedicated to the understanding of the perispirit. Gabriel Delanne quotes Kardec throughout the book and shares with us that the foundation of it all will be imprinted in our spiritual body, the perispirit. And he says, and I quote Gabriel Delanne in chapter 1, when he says, sensations and thoughts are registered in our fluidic body, the perispirit, without which we could not acquire and retain knowledge and experiences. So you and I are evolving. You and I are evolving. How can we evolve if we do not retain? If in one life the body dies, where is everything stored? In Virginia, I am now close to Washington, D.C. That's where the headquarters of Kardec Radio are, though the headquarters of Kardec Radio are now around the world, but that's where we began. And here in the state of Virginia, in the city of Charlottesville, founded by Thomas Jefferson, we have the University of Virginia, created by him, and the beautiful Department of Psychiatry, where Dr. Ian Stevenson began the studies of children who remember previous lives. He published many books about it, many scientific papers. Nowadays, led by Dr. Jim Tucker, we have more and more evidence, and it's already scientific to say that there are many lives. Whether people agree or disagree, it's already a scientific fact. It's already proved. What to do with it, they're still figuring out. Why and how, they may not know, but we know it does. So much so that one of the books published by Dr. Stevenson is about birthmarks. And he named the elements that go from one life to the next diathanatic elements, meaning elements that surpass death. But how? Without the understanding that there must be a more quintessence body, a fluidic body, a body that we call in Spiritism perispirit, we wouldn't understand about it all. How can I have a birthmark on my neck related to a previous life if that body died? This body is new, in a different place, in a different time. Because in my spiritual body, I register my sensations and my thoughts, my words, my actions. So, if we are trying to hide who we are, think twice. Can't hide it from God. But the worst of it all, because God loves us, is to hide from ourselves. We can't hide anything from ourselves either. You and I have everything that we do, say, we feel, we think, register in our spiritual body. In the book Evolution into Worlds, André Luiz in chapter 2, part 1, is going to talk about the spiritual body, just like Gabriel Delanne. The spiritual body not being a reflex of the physical, on the contrary, the physical body reflecting the spiritual body, as much as the spiritual body reflects itself in itself the mental body, which molds the formation of it all. So André Luiz in chapter 2 is going to extend that understanding from Kardec and Gabriel Delanne and tell us that we are who we are and we retain our individuality, which is so important because it's all registered in our spiritual body. So we evolve without losing ourselves. Well, okay. He continues. And then in chapter 2, he's going to talk about the evolution of the spiritual principle from kingdom to kingdom of nature, from species to species. Imagine. He says, regarding the evolution of the soul, the manifestations of the spirit in all the living beings are graded in such a way that we can identify an ascending progression that will manifest more greatly when we get closer to humankind. Think about this. Think about this. As we evolve, all that we have learned is stored and it's cumulative. And then I expand to learn the new, and what I've learned is still retained, and I keep expanding in potentialities, as Leon Denis says in one of his books about the potentialities of the soul. You see, all of these authors, giant in their thoughts, are very consistent and coherent amongst themselves. And André Luiz is going to tell us that. Look at this. As we evolve from one kingdom to the next, Gabriel Delanne says, then in chapter 4, part 1 of the book Evolution into Worlds, André Luiz is going to say, in the force of attraction in the mineral, sensation in the plant, instinct in animals, we see the spiritual principle he names here chrysalis of awareness, building its schools of organization, sensitivity, and intelligence, transforming gradually all the nervous activity into the psychic life, the life of the mind. In each kingdom, we learn one aspect. In each species, a subtopic of that aspect, from how to organize ourselves materially, how to create sensitivity, how to bloom in our intelligence, and then to reach the human kingdom. You and I both think about this. You have a pet. Your pet is a spirit created by God. You are assigned to help its progress. When we look at a dog, at a cat, at a bird, at a flower, we're responsible for the vibrations we're imprinting in them as well. What are we teaching them? Rage? I remember this guy came to me and said, Vanessa, I feel so guilty because I was enraged and I used my dog as a scapegoat. I almost killed it. I said, thank God you're repentant because you know that they are children of God as well. Think about it, friends. When you look at a tree, the tree doesn't know of us, but we know of the tree, consciousness, right? But the tree is the form that is enveloping, quote unquote, multidimensionally. We're talking about the spiritual principle that is awakening, that is creating possibilities in sensations, sensibility. And without the tree, we cannot live well. Think of a little bee. A bee seems so small, so unimportant. But then you read the studies in science showing their role in nature, in pollination, and then you get to know how important they are for human life. We are all interdependent. When we learn that every being evolves, we need to be more like St. Francis, more understanding of nature and one with nature. Gabriel Delanne in chapter 3 is going to talk to us about the spiritual principle that evolves slowly in the simplest forms to the most complex ones. So you and I will never look at a flower and a tree and the grass and a worm and a bee and a bug, a dog and a cat in the same way. They are so precious that they are living beings that are evolving, that are counting on us as we are counting on them also to live well. Let us then meditate, dear friends, in this time in which we're talking about global warming, about the importance of being friendly with nature, how we can really customize our lives to be more friendly with nature, to be more one with nature, more integrated with nature, respecting it and changing our lives to respect its life. After all, Gabriel Delanne begins the book in the chapter about life, talking about the fact that God created us, we exist, but He created us to evolve. We're not finished, we're not done. We need to work on ourselves, and one of the ways is to be aware that nature and us are one. We need this togetherness in order to keep on progressing on earth. And then he's going to talk about this evolution that later we're going to see in the book Evolution into Worlds, chapter 4, confirmed by André Luiz. Later, think about it. Gabriel Delanne wrote this book in the late 19th century. And then in 1958, the 20th century, comes the Spirit André Luiz in the book Evolution into Worlds, writing to us about how we form the spiritual body through subsequent experiences in the physical body. All organs of the spiritual body and consequently the physical body were therefore built slowly, given the need of the mental field on its conditioning and expression of the terrestrial environment. So when our dog is learning a new trick, you're helping the dog evolve to the point that we're going to see in the Spiritist magazine. You can go to spiritistmagazine.org. There is a cover about Mozart, and there the translation of an interview between Kardec and the spirit of Mozart through a medium at Kardec's time, in which he talks about his internship in Jupiter, another planet of our solar system, much more evolved than Earth, in which he says to us that animals there are housekeepers. Yeah, they're the ones who help us take care of everything. And yesterday, I was going to a Walmart and I saw a service dog. You see, that dog is ahead, learning to serve. When we do
Vanessa,
this,
Vanessa, excuse me.
yes,
Your slides are not moving forward.
they are not.
Yeah. Now, okay. Now, yeah, we can see. Yeah, it's
They
changed.
stopped. You saw a few, but not all.
No, we just got stuck on the first one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me see what. Okay, so let me see here. Somebody taught me a trick. Let me see if I can. Uh,
Okay.
let me see. Um, what can I? Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, can you tell me if you can? I will go back just to see if you can see me changing the slides.
Okay.
Can you see it? No.
No. No.
Okay. Uh, okay, I'll share it again because I showed so many slides.
Okay.
Um, okay. Let me go back here. Ah, okay. Let me know now, Munir.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes. Yes. Now
Yes.
it's moving. Yeah.
Thank you. If it
Yeah.
stops, feel
Sorry.
free
Yes.
to let me know. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate your help. Thank you.
No. No, no problem.
All right. So this is Gabriel Delanne. This is the cover we talked about the evolution of the soul, the book, Evolution into Worlds, Kardec Radio's YouTube. You can see it, right? And the chapters of the book, Evolution of the Soul. And we were talking about the fact that we evolve, how Gabriel Delanne explains that we evolve because we are securing this evolution that is registered in our spiritual body that evolves with us. And its confirmation and developing the book, Evolution into Worlds by André Luiz. And as Gabriel Delanne in chapter 2 enters, explaining how this evolution of the spiritual principle happens through the manifestations of all living beings in each kingdom of nature, André Luiz in the book Evolution into Words, part 1, chapter 4, is going to confirm the characteristics of these internships in matter, from learning, organization to sensitivity and blooming in intelligence, and how this progress happens slowly, confirmed by André Luiz later in chapter 4, part 1 of the book Evolution into Worlds. And we want to share this with you. Andre Luis says that it took us from the day of creation to the day we got to the human kingdom, it took us 1.5 billion years. So for us, it's very slowly, but it's a sure progress. So now for us, there is a beautiful understanding of how we evolve and everything is registered in our spiritual body. And as a psychologist, I want to add something here. We need to learn how to archive our memories and especially their emotions. Archive in the sense organizing our understanding of the happenings in our lives. We cannot keep on living and progressing, allowing memories, especially traumas, to be there in the back burner of our minds. Think about Jesus. He evolved before he came to the earth. When he came here, he was already pure. But in other places in the universe, as any other spirit created by God, he evolved to become pure. He had to organize and make sense of it all. And that's our quest, friends. You and I need good psychotherapists, friends, to help us and support us in organizing our emotions, our memories, so we can really become more integrated, less fragmented in our lives. Today, we were giving a talk at the Spiritist Society of Virginia about inner empowerment, and we were mentioning how to achieve a secure attachment with God by organizing ourselves in how we have a secure attachment with our parents in this life, whether they are discarnated or not, whether we are young or older. It's vital for us. And as we evolve, Gabriel Delanne is going to tell us in a beautiful chapter about multiple personalities, mental illnesses, several cases, but I chose one case in chapter 4, Felida's case of multiple personality. She lived a long life until her 30s. She was well, and suddenly she started having this crisis. She would go off her mind and have a completely different personality, talking to people, going to the streets as if she were somebody else. How can you explain that? Spiritism explains that. Deepak Chopra has a book about the quantic body, and he talks about the fact that a boy had multiple personalities, and a certain personality developed allergy. So if you would drink orange juice while feeling that way in that personality, he would develop allergy. If you were in a different mental state, in a different personality, he wouldn't develop allergy. How interesting is this? To know that our mental state may change and create in our physical body a different configuration. It changes everything. Of course, you and I know that it would change the whole healthcare system. The day we understand of this, probably emergency rooms will be more empty because many of the cases there are psychosomatic. Mm-hmm. Recently, I was talking to nurses and physicians of an emergency room, and they were saying how many cases they see of things that are not physical at all and end up in the emergency room with physical symptoms but no physical causes. Where is that coming from? Many hypotheses, but one of them, the fact that we have things to take care of at psychological, spiritual level. Felida, they identified that she had this different personality that was happening, And Gabriel Delanne says, where is that coming from? You may say it could be another spirit, right? Yes. In this case, he's talking about previous lives experiences that can surface as if you have a computer with different softwares. Now I'm seeing this picture in the screen from one software. If I open another one, I can see another picture, and that doesn't mean the computer is what you're seeing, just like us. What we're showing not necessarily is the essence, but it's what's surfacing from the inner. And that inner may be defragmented, different lives. So we are reborn yet again, reincarnation, to defragment ourselves. You know, in a computer, you have that function, defragmentation, and that's what we're talking about. So, Spiritism can help us. A good spiritual counselor in a spiritist center will lead us into that understanding. A good psychotherapist who understands about many lives will lead us into a less defragmented life when we are more one with ourselves, less divided, conflicted, like Felida. And of course, in chapter 4, he's going to expand and talk about sonambulism, mediumistic trends. And he mentions there how Spiritism explains those state of the mind, the trance state, in such a way that he mentions their months to fall. And he says when she was 14, receiving messages by the renowned spirit of the King Louis XI, and she had no knowledge whatsoever of what he was talking about, and she was able to channel that information as well. So when we want to understand prodigy children, when we want to understand abilities that we haven't worked upon to have it in this life, but we do have them, where is that coming from? From experiences in previous lives that we acquired, abilities that were developed, potentialities that are blooming and surfacing in this life, showing to us that we are more than the eyes can see. Gabriel Delanne is also going to talk about in chapter 4 about cases of mental illnesses related to spirit attachment, obsession, as we say in Spiritism. He says in chapter 4 there are cases in which the mental illness is not in the organism but comes from obsessing spirits. In this case, we can say that Spiritism can be considered a social benefit. I love this expression in Gabriel Delanne, a social benefit. Why does he say that? Think about it. I'm in the United States. You don't hear such things much in England, but here it's very common to hear about a teen who gets a gun, enters a school, shooting people. Where does that come from? A mind that is mentally ill. That's a sure thing. I remember Michael Gazzaniga, a great and renowned neuroscientist, giving a talk at the University of Maryland. He was a guest speaker. And this was in the year 2014. He talked about 12 or 14. He said, the people who commit crimes, they have broken brains. They have mental illnesses. How do you fix it? Sending them to jail is just going to retain and contain them, but it's not going to change them. We need treatment. Michael Gazzaniga, who was the man who saw first and foremost that our right and left hemispheres have particular features, that they are modulating different features in us. He calls the laterality of our brains. Later, studying neurocriminology, he observed that once the brain is not working well, we are mentally ill, we have an output that is not adequate, and it's a social problem. But not all people who display and get mentally ill, they are alone. As Gabriel Delanne is going to say in chapter 4, in many cases, there are many people. He quotes Kardec in the Medium's book, talking about the men who, and this is chapter 23 of the Medium's book, quoted by Gabriel Delanne in chapter 4 of the book, The Evolution of the Soul, when he says that this man was subjugated to entities that were shaming him by making him kneel down to every woman he encountered in the street. So our mental issues affect the society. And if Spiritism has the understanding and evidence, and by now we have enough evidence to say, and we have beautiful scientists who are spiritists in Brazil, like Dr. Alexander Moreira and others, who are advocating in psychiatry, showing to the world that there is more than just the brain. We have an extra physical body that is susceptible to this exchange in another realm that is affecting our physical health. And thus, our relationships, our social health. And Spiritism, as Delanne says, can be a great social benefit, because when we bring these cases of obsession of created by mental illnesses created by obsessions to the center to do the disobsession in spiritual treatments, in disobsession meetings, and people live a better life, we're helping society. I come from a spiritist family. My great great grandfather came from Italy to Brazil, and together with Dr. Ivenia Prada's family, founded a spiritist center that is 106 years old in the countryside of Brazil. There, I've known through my own grandmother, grandfather, I've been there to the center, and my my great uncles told me about the stories that they've seen and helped of people who came and were disobsessed. It was a spiritist center that became renowned in Brazil at a time when psychiatry couldn't do much, when psychopharmacology was not what it is today. There were no medications. People would bring these cases to the spiritist center, and through mediumistic meetings, obsession treatments, these patients would heal, creating a better society. I've seen personally when my grandmother was the president of the center, visiting her every summer at summer vacation. We were seated in her living room. And then this girl came, she was a teenager, and she came to us saying to my grandmother, Amalia, we need your help because there is something biting me. It bites me. I can see the bites and the pain. I need somebody needs it's some spirit. The woman wasn't a spiritist. The family asked for help. And while she was talking to us, we saw a bite forming right there in her arms. She was taken to the spiritist center. She went through the treatment, and after a process, she got healed. She was able to get married, have her children, and live her life. Spiritism, as Gabriel Delanne says, can be of great social benefit. So, you and I are here revisiting these great authors from Gabriel Delanne to Kardec, Andre Louis, who are bringing to us the awareness that these teachings tell us we evolve through effort and repetition, through the living of society And through the teachings of Spiritism, we can advance even further. As Dr. Gary Schwartz said to me once at Cardiac Radio, if we read the Spiritist books, we're going to expedite the evolution of science on the earth, but not only science, of our very lives. I'm going to stop here to talk with you, to hear from you if you have any question or any comment.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Anseloni. It's been very, very inspiring. And this book is a beautiful book because it deals with different aspects of spiritism, and Delanne is very good at doing that, especially bringing scientific information, information of his time, of course. And I just want to mention at the very beginning of the book, he says that the characteristic of our end of century, his end of century, is that there is no denying a radical evolution of ideas. And I remember when teaching modern physics, this period, the end of the 19th century in science and the beginning of the 20th century, it was amazing. They were making breakthroughs almost every day, sort of thing. And it's interesting that in physics, they thought they were reaching the end of physics in the sense that they had all the theories. Newton to explain, you know, certain physical laws, and then they had the electromagnetism of Maxwell. Then they had thermodynamics, and they had just a few adjustments to make to finish all the theory that they supposed, explained everything in the universe. And that was at the very transition from the 19th century to the 20th, and all of a sudden trying to make those little adjustments. They started to envision quantum physics, and all that came in the 20th century. And then also reminded an experience I had on my first day at the university, at the Physics Institute in São Paulo, Brazil, where they took us newcomers to a visit to a 8-story building, no windows. We went to underground, and there was a long corridor, concrete on all sides, no window, nothing at all, and just plain wall at the end. And then I thought, this is a joke, it's a dead end. Where are we going? But then, right at the very end, on one of the walls at the side, we could see a tiny red button. And then one of the guys pressed that button, and the whole 2-meter thick wall just opened, moved. And then we could see this huge laboratory of nuclear physics and
Wow.
so on. So yes, and then when I see what Delanne is saying, about the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th, is more or less like that. We've
Yes.
reached the dead end. That's it. That's all that exists. And when you move that wall at the very end, there's a huge new world for us to explore. And it's beautiful what they did. The work he did, bringing to us this beautiful work that you summarized very well. I think this is you brought the right flavor for people to dive into this book and learn with Delanne. Science has moved, but what he said is still valid.
Yes.
So we can make the necessary, updating in terms of new science, new knowledge that we have. But we see that there is a continuation. It's not that we are going to throw it in the waste bin and say, no, no, everything now has changed. No, science has changed. But the way the road he started is still there. We have just progressed.
You're right.
Yeah. So if people want to make questions, we are very thankful to those watching us. And
I think it's
so,
so important what you said, Munir. I just want to emphasize what you said, that science progressed so much. We're in the 21st century, and yet this book that was written by Gabriel Delanne is so true to date. Nothing is invalid. And it just brings to us the awareness that, somebody must be telling the truth and it's certainly ahead of our time. So we need to go back, read it, to see how we can also keep marching forward into our own progress,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And the social problems, the social context, we
Yes.
see very clearly with Leon Denis. They give us the impression they are talking about our time. And then we see how little we have actually advanced. We have ahead of us new things, but we are still at the entrance,
Yeah.
at that door, at that wall that moved and showed us this beautiful nuclear physics laboratory. But we haven't entered that. We haven't, explored that to learn what there is there. So we see that socially, the world's moving slowly, but in certain fronts, we see the advancement that we had, and it's it's very inspiring, I would say. Each one of Delanne's book is wonderful in terms of
Yes,
inspiration, information, and
you're
the
right.
scientific approach that he brings.
You're right.
Yeah, we are very thankful to Elsa Rossi
Yes.
and also Narciso Thomas. They said hello,
Yes. He's our
left
friend
us
too.
some comments. Yes, and there is one point here that fascinates me because we don't see very normally. We know that at a certain point, we spirits we have been created simple and ignorant.
Yeah.
That was the moment that the individual spirit was formed. But then I see that, as he mentions very well, and you also brought that to your talk, that the spiritual principle hasn't started evolving there. The spiritual principle is everywhere. So I take that together with the beautiful science that is astronomy and also cosmology. When we realize that we came from all that we see around us, it started with a cloud of hydrogen and helium. Started with that. And as you said, it's a 13.5 billion years, more or less. It may be more, it may be less. It may not be the only Big Bang that existed in the universe. It may be much larger than it. But what we know is that that initial cloud went through transformations and led to what we see today. If there isn't a spiritual, intelligent principle behind all that, what is driving this? What drove that initial cloud of simple matter to what we see? Or our Earth started 4.5 billion years ago. And in this 4.5 billion, it went from a hot ball of gases to what
Yeah.
we see today. If it's not an intelligent principle evolving together with matter,
Yes.
taking matter through its transformation, guiding. People say, oh, it's God. Yes, because it's the divine principle, God manifesting itself through this divine principle that is the intelligent principle or the spiritual principle. And it's very nice when you start to see everything around us from atoms, mineral, vegetables, animals. We are all together in this. We are different
Yes.
levels, but we are all together.
Yeah.
Some in the kindergarten, some in a primary school, secondary school, and
Yes.
university, and so on.
It's so beautiful to see this and how we don't evolve alone, right, Munir?
Yes,
Because we're going to
yes,
see that though God created us all, as you said, we are in different levels of evolution and we are in this intercollaboration. And we are evolving through effort and repetition, as Andrea Lewis says in the book Evolution into Worlds. And there we see the kindness of God bringing to us to new stages. And we are, and I like to say this, quote unquote, we are baby-seated, literally, by illuminated minds who are more evolved than us in the name of God to go through the next steps. And every being, they are so, we're living at a time when we're becoming more aware of the importance of being aware of nature and how important nature is. And in the book Evolution into Worlds, we see Andre Lewis showing to us how these most evolved spirits are assigned the roles to care for every living being in nature, and we cannot despise anything because in everything is an internship for a spiritual principle that is evolving. So it's precious.
Yes, yes, it is, and our role in this creation, and we can see if I was taking part in the evolution of the world of the universe when I was just a spiritual principle, very simple there. Now that I've become individualized and perhaps more intelligent as such, my role should be even more important than it was before. So why am I evolving? To be able to work better and more extensively in the creation. So we are co-creators. I like that, and we are learning to be
Yeah.
co-creators, responsible for more. How do I say? I wouldn't say difficult, but important tasks, or perhaps important is not also the right words to say, but we are getting just like in life, we
Yeah.
start from the kindergarten with simple
Yeah.
uh plays and so on, and then as we evolve we get more complex roles and responsible for that, and to do it in a proper way. So
Yeah.
it's this integration with everything around us is very important, and this book has you know brought me so many interesting thoughts. It's a
Right.
very thought-provoking book, this
It
one. Yeah,
is. And he has many beautiful cases. You know,
yeah,
when I was creating the presentation, I thought I'm going to, if I would do it a second time, I would probably take the cases that Gabriel Delanne talks about in the book and go from case to case to develop the general idea that he's giving to us, that we all evolve, as you said, we're co-creators. And for those who are there on a Sunday thinking, oh, my life is so boring, remember, we're co-creators.
yes.
We are unique co-creators. We need to do our share, right, Munir?
Yes, exactly. So, Dr. Anseloni, thank you so much. I'll make some announcements before we go, and I want to thank everyone for being with us.
All right.
And please tell your friends and colleagues, to watch later. It's going to be on YouTube, different channels, so you can watch it later or perhaps watch it again,
Yes,
because yes, it's very valuable.
you're right.
So I just put the announcements here. Next month, on the 2nd of July, we'll have with us our colleague, dear friend, Rafael Caldas. He will be talking about the book, The Apparitions and Materializations of Living and Dead. So it's the first Sunday of July. So put you on your agenda and be with us next month. We have our regular studies on Wednesdays. We study the book Heaven and Hell and also the Gospel according to Spiritism. So it's every Wednesday, 12 noon London time. We also have the study of the Mediums book every Saturday, 10:30 UK time. It's a study group, so we don't have lectures. We have some of us conducting the study, but microphone is open to everyone to ask questions and for us to discuss, because the aim is actually to learn what Kardec is saying, and also the spirits are saying to us on this very important book. And last but not least, thanks to Kardec Radio for allowing us to do our series here on their studio. Thank you so much, and hope to see you all next month with another series of Gabriel Delanne's books. Bye
Thank
bye for
you, friends.
now.
Bye bye.